Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice 9-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really does help the channel a lot. I will check the weather here for this slate. Sorry for being a little bit delayed today, but just got a little bit behind. However, we don't have any weather concerns on this slate, so that's nice. Hopefully that will be the case a lot going forward. Now, there is a 6:45 slate that has a bunch of games in it. That slate is probably going to be higher scoring than this one. Uh, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting slate, though. Pitching is kind of rough today. We don't have a lot when it comes to really high-powered strikeout guys. We do have one guy, and then for the bats, they're kind of contrarian. I do think most of the teams are going to score at least 3 or 4 runs, and several teams have that potential to get 5 or 6 runs. This is going to be a very strange slate because the bats look good, but they're expensive, and the pitchers don't look great. So let's go ahead and look at our pitchers, though. So King is going to be the top overall play. He's also the most expensive. He does have a favorable matchup against Pittsburgh, who he just faced and scored 15 fantasy points against. That isn't ideal, but he should be able to get enough strikeouts here to potentially get up to 20 fantasy points, and he's been pretty good lately. So he's somebody I definitely think has some potential today. He's not a must play, being the most expensive play, but he's also not as expensive as top plays typically are. Some other GPP plays will be Kevin Gausman for Toronto. He's probably the best option if you just want to go for pure strikeouts. However, he has really struggled lately with that, so that's a little bit of a concern. But he does have the best strikeout potential on the slate because he's facing the Angels, who will strike out a lot, and he's going to be one of the higher owned players, much like King will be. Another guy you could consider as a GPP/extreme GPP play would be Rodriguez for Arizona. Now, he's got a favorable matchup against Colorado, and that definitely gives him some potential here. He's only pitched to one game so far, so to keep that in mind, but he is capable of a solid game here, and if he can get enough strikeouts, he can definitely pay off. I don't think Colorado has too much potential on this game at all. Then we'll look at Nestor Cortez for the Yankees. Now, he's going to be the highest owned player in the pitching, and he's been very inconsistent lately with a low floor. His ceiling is decent enough, but his strikeout rate for this particular game against the White Sox isn't particularly great. However, the White Sox are completely awful, so he definitely has some potential, and there's a reason he's highest owned on the slate by a lot. And so I do think he draws some really good potential today. One other guy you could consider would be Blackburn from the Mets. Now he's facing Oakland today, which is going to give him some potential. He does have tendency to give up home runs, though, so to keep that in mind. And he'll be facing his old team. So I do think he has some potential, though, to get enough strikeouts to pay off. Though he's not a huge play, he definitely can get in the 15 to 20 fantasy point range in this one and potentially get a win. So he's kind of a contrarian play, but he will be pretty high owned as well. As for some other extreme GPP plays, Seth Lugo, Charlie Morton, um, and Harrison for San Francisco against Atlanta are kind of the extreme GPP plays. We do have a couple Hail Mary plays, well, really just one, of Matthews for Minnesota against Kansas City. This will be his first game, but he's had a really good strikeout rate in the minors with 114 strikeouts in 97 innings, and he's not walking much either, so that's very nice. I think he's in a really good spot here. Even though I do like a couple Kansas City bats, he might give up a couple runs. I think he can get enough strikeouts on this particular slate to pay off, though. He is an extremely high risk, high reward kind of situation. We do have some other boomer bust plays that you could look at, which would be Ray for Milwaukee against the Dodgers. That's just an insane matchup for him, but he has been very consistent lately, scoring 20 fantasy point games, and that definitely gives him some potential as a boomer bust play. Ortiz for Pittsburgh against San Diego, also kind of interesting, though I don't love it by any stretch of imagination. Kind of a boomer bust play there too. The bottom four guys, Cannon, Gomber, Urena, and Stripling, these guys are all just super avoidable on the slate. You could also avoid Stone, but he would have some low-owned upside potential with a winning with a team that can win at least. Especially because I don't think we're going to have too many guys that score 30 fantasy points today. I think that's probably where we're going to sit. So I want to move on to our bats now. So catcher is kind of a weak position today. We don't have a ton of great options, but we do have some interesting ones with William Contreras. William Contreras for Milwaukee. He definitely looks like the best overall play on this position, though he doesn't have the home run metric today that I typically like to have when I utilize him. So to keep that in mind, but his hitting metrics are fantastic today, so he's definitely worth a look. Connor Wong is another guy for Boston who looks really good. Now Boston's very stackable today, and he's got some really good hitting metrics for this game as well. Again, not a lot of home run potential at this position, but he's nice and cheap here, and he can help you pay up at other positions. The ownership here would be Austin Wells, Alejandro Kirk, Connor Wong, and Logan Hope, and then Salvador Perez and Will Smith owned upside guys. Looking at first base, Otani and Freddie Freeman are going to be top plays here. I suspect that both those guys have a lot of potential for home runs today. Otani with a lot more, but Freddie Freeman has absolutely fantastic hitting metrics today as well. But another guy that does outside of them is going to be Vlad Guerrero Jr., who does look fantastic today with his hitting metrics. Again, not really the home run metric today, but just really good hitting upside. And this Toronto team should be able to score some runs against the Angels today. So he's definitely somebody that can do that. If we look at the ownership, Otani and then Sportster Horowitz, he's somebody that's been pretty good lately. Vlad Jr., Josh Bell, Connor Wong, Freddie Freeman, and the low-owned upside guys, Salvador Perez and Ben Rice. Now, Ben Rice might be kind of a sneaky play on the slate. Benny Pasquantino, also kind of a sneaky play on the slate against a young pitcher who hasn't pitched in the majors yet. Looking at second base, it doesn't look like Ketel Marte will play today, and that will definitely open up this position, which is one of the better positions when it comes to value. We do have Marcus Semien at the top, though, with Texas. But, he's always a guy that looks really solid most games, and he's been hitting the ball pretty good lately. So I think he's got some potential here, at least good hitting metrics. But David Hamilton is a nice cheap play on the slate. Where'd he go? $4,200. Okay, for Boston, this game is going to be high scoring, it looks like. I think that there's going to be at least 10 runs in this game. And looking at this situation for him, he's got a really good matchup metric here, and he's been really good in 2 games against Texas already this season. He also has stolen base potential that can definitely boost him, so he doesn't have to have a home run to pay off, as he's not a super home run guy, but he's just got good hitting metrics for this game. Bryce Terang is another guy from Milwaukee that has some potential today at this position as well, as he's got good matchup metrics. Mostly just hitting metrics here as well, but he can sometimes get home runs. The ownership here, Kevin Newman, Spencer Horwitz, Brandon Drury, Gleyber Torres, David Hamilton, Marcus Semien, Gavin Lux, and Lynn Sosa. A lot of I think there's going to be a lot of discrepancy on who people use at this position today. Low-owned upside guys, Leo Jimenez, who hit his first home run yesterday, Ketel Marte, and Adam Frazier. Obviously, if Marte plays, then he would be interesting. Nick Sogard for Boston is a kind of a Hail Mary play at this position. And then Miguel Garcia and Jake Cronenworth both have some utility as well. Like I said, that position is really deep today, and it's probably going to be a high-scoring position, but you don't have to pay up a lot to get that scoring probably. Looking at third base, Rafael Devers does have the home run metric today that we like, and so we're definitely interested in him. He does look really good today. He's also got good hitting metrics, so he looks good in both directions. If you want to get a little bit cheaper than him, you can go down to Jazz Chisholm Jr. if he draws a play today, but I think he would be somebody you got to consider, as he's been absolutely fantastic for the Yankees so far. Now, he is pretty expensive, and he is day-to-day, so he's not a must-play by any stretch. Austin Riley also has a good home run metric today, as well as hitting upside, and so I think he's somebody that's very interesting on the slate. But my favorite play at this position actually is Royce Lewis, who's just been on a freaking heater since he's been back. He keeps getting hurt, but as long as he's healthy and he's in the lineup, and he's got some home run potential. So looking at this matchup, he's absolutely phenomenal today. He's got the best home run metric on the slate, I think, and so he's definitely a good option there. Looking at some ownership here, Rafael Devers, Brandon Drury, Eugenio Suarez, Lynn Sosa, and Ernie Clement, with Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Kiki Hernandez being some owned upside guys. Nick Sogard and Miguel Garcia can also play at this position. Looking at shortstop, if Bobby Witt Jr. plays today, he'd be somebody that I would consider. However, Corey Seager does look really solid today. Now, he was our core play yesterday, and he ended up scoring 41 fantasy points, being the second best player at shortstop, and that's been fantastic for us. But I do think he's in a solid place again. Now, I don't think he's a core play, and I don't think he has the home run metric today to the level that he had it yesterday. He still has it, though. And this game's going to be high scoring, and these two teams, Boston and Texas, both very stackable on the slate. Now, Mookie Betts came back for his first game yesterday, and boy, did he pay off with his home run and a stolen base, scoring 26 fantasy points. His price actually went up as a result, and I'm not surprised. Now, he's quite a bit more expensive than Seager, who is similar in potential, but Mookie does have better home run metrics today. He's definitely worth a look. Now, I also mentioned that David Hamilton, who's a cheap play, can play at this position. Ownership here: Kevin Newman, David Hamilton, Corey Seager, Tyler Fitzgerald, Ernie Clement, and Mickey Betts. Low-owned upside guys: Anthony Volpe, Leo Jimenez, and Bobby Witt Jr. Willie Adames, Francisco Lindor, and Anthony Volpe also look very interesting on this slate. Looking in the outfields, this is going to be a pretty weak outfield day, I think. But I do like Ohtani, Soto, Judge, and Corbin Carroll as my 4 expensive options on the slate. I do think they're really good options, but some nice value today will be Wilyer Abreu, who is a core play for Boston for me. I think this game is going to be extremely high scoring. Definitely 2 teams you want to try to stack up in some lineups, Texas and Boston today. And he has good metrics for the slate, including home run upside. We also like Luis Robert Jr. Now, I was a little surprised to see him pop up so high. He is completely a boomer bust home run play, though, so do keep that in mind. His hitting metrics is good, though, but he has been striking out a lot, and he does need a hit home run probably to pay off, though he does have some stolen base potential as well that does give him some upside here. But it may be hard for the White Sox to do a lot in this particular matchup. Yoshida is very interesting for Boston. He has been hitting the ball a lot better lately, as we can look at the past 10 games, averaging 7.5 fantasy points a game. He's got some home run potential today as well, but his hitting metrics are really solid today, and he's really improved as of late. Adolis Garcia for Texas is another guy that I think has some really good home run potential today, as he has get some good metrics. And this outfield looks like it's going to be home run heavy. He's definitely somebody you've got to consider. And then finally, Randall Grichuk. Randall for Arizona also looks very interesting with a good hitting and home run metric. Despite the fact he hadn't hit many home runs this season, that metric is up today. So I definitely think he's got some potential, and he's been pretty good lately hitting the ball. So I think he's a viable option as well, and nicely priced. Some contrarian plays at this position: Dalton Varsho, Jake McCarthy, George Springer, Rob Refsnyder, Brent Rooker, and Brandon Nimmo. The ownership here: Ohtani, Soto, Dalton Varsho, George Springer, Alex Verdugo, Judge, Randall Grichuk, Jake McCarthy, Masataka Yoshida, and Lourdes Gurriel, with Stanton, Refsnyder, and Loper Fido being some contrarian top owned guys. So low owned upside guys that would have some potential: Kevin Kiermaier, Teoscar Hernandez, and Adam Frazier. With that said, guys, thank you for liking.